Okay, good afternoon. Today, I want to give a warm welcome to Jeremy Pease, the CEO of Colo House. He's got over 20 years of leadership in data center and cloud hosting, previously contributing as a senior VP of managed services at DataBank and COO of Aptum. Jeremy's here today to dive deeper into some of the insights he's already shared with us on our recent interview for Authority Magazine. His article got a lot of traction. A lot of people were really interested in what Jeremy had to say. So I wanted to go a little deeper. So Jeremy, is great to have you here. Could you take a moment to tell us more about your journey?
Yes, no, thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I think it's been an interesting journey, one that I would say is probably not the traditional path that a lot of people would take to get to where I am today. So technology was something that was in my household growing up, so it was always something that I kind of took to early on and really enjoyed it. And so after getting out of high school, I really started very early on at 19 years old, getting my first corporate job, and worked my way up through help desk roles, network administration roles, programming. That led to doing some IT recruiting, which led to project management, and it really was a path that kind of worked a number of different jobs in the space to really understand how things operated, how things worked throughout the business, which led me into this whole path of cloud hosting, co-location, cloud services, data bank. We worked through managed services, building out bare metal platforms, and so it really has turned into this managed services, co-location, cloud space of really focused on what does it take to operate that type of business? How do you manage the growth in this space? Because it grows so quickly and it changes so quickly. And so after running operations for a number of years, realizing that that's kind of what I thought at the end of the day that I really wanted to be was a COO. And then I sat in that seat and I said, and I still don't have the same impact on the overall in position of a business that I want to. And so finally decided that CEO is the seat that has that impact across the board, and got that opportunity. And can't believe it's almost been a year now with Colo House. And so now I'm here with the ability to impact from sales to marketing to strategy to direction to acquisitions to operations, HR, and all the functions of the business. And it's really exciting because working with the private equity firm that we do, I've got full support on the strategy and vision that I believe is impactful to this space, and looking forward to continuing to implement what we've already done after a really impactful last year on the business.
That's impressive and exciting, and it takes a certain kind of tenacity to be able to do that, to work your way up and keep on learning and keep on growing. A lot of us can get stuck and just doing something, and you wanted to keep growing, which I admire. How many employees are in your company?
So we're about 75 employees today.
Okay, great. So you, in your article, credited a great mentor for providing some key opportunities. What was one piece of advice or guidance from this mentor that's really stayed with you, and how has mentorship shaped your leadership style?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's referencing to Art Zaley, who I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to to have as a mentor, to have in my life. He really, to sit there and go back to it. I was at a company called hosting.com 10 years ago, and Art was the CEO, and Joel Daly, another person who's well respected in this space, though he was the COO. And these guys really were the co-founders, the ones that really brought this company together. And Joel was just this personality. Anybody that will ever meet him, just like, you just get attracted and drawn to him. He has a spirit to him, and Art is just, he is so driven on the business side and what he's able to accomplish and the way that he's able to raise funds. And so, when there was an opportunity to choose a mentor, a lot of people would choose Joel because he's that really cool guy that you want to get to know. And I will say, in making that decision to select Art, it was it probably was one of the better decisions I made in my career. He always challenged me to do more and to be more clear on how I was going to accomplish something at the end of the day. He knew that I was a problem solver, but he wanted me to turn that into, how do you create that into becoming a strategy and vision leader? How do you change that? Because you've got the ability for any problem that you see in front of you to solve it. Now, how do you take that and go, what is the problem for an overall business in this space? And how do you create a strategy to solve the problems that are necessary within this space? And so he said, if you can do that, then I know where we get you to at the end of the day will allow you to lead an entire organization. And so we'll grow to get you there. So I think it's that mindset of taking the skills and the capabilities that you have as a leader and taking them from seeing how you execute and operate on a daily basis, and then turning that into a strategy and vision and executing on that at the end of the day. That really changed it from, I always took risks in jobs that I took. I always challenged myself. As you said, you can get stuck in certain places, but to me, I was always looking for that next challenge, that next opportunity. I was always driven by that. But he helped me understand I was only going to get so far on that path of challenging myself. I had to start looking at problems, and I had to start looking at the industry in a different way. And that's why I really believe that I am where I am today, because I started to look at things differently. And it set me up to be in a seat like this, to sit here as the CEO of Colo House.
So that kind of leads me to wonder about the way you embrace risk taking with your employees today. Like, it's a lot of times organizations will say, yes, we like risk and take risks, but then if you take a risk and fail, you're like penalized. So what is the risk taking atmosphere like in Colo House?
Well, I think for me as a leader, it's always about being transparent. And one of those things that I try to be transparent with the organization about is, we're all going to fail at some point or another. It happens. That's because if you're not taking risks, it's very hard to move forward and really make significant progress. It's very difficult. And so there's a phrase that I use on a regular basis, which is, if you fail, fail fast and fail forward. Right? That's what we want to think about. Is there's going to be a point at which you got to recognize that failure, and you got to be able to move past it and move forward. And so that's where it is. I'm happy to take risks. I'm happy for team members to jump out there and take the initiative, take that opportunity to do that. But don't get stuck in that and think that, man, I'm just going to have to push through this to get to the other side. It's almost as if, I know a lot of people on the sales side will say, I've got to learn how to get that fast no, right? Because if that deal really isn't there, I need to recognize that and be able to move on so I don't waste cycles, right? And so I think that's the key. Is it's all about embracing and taking those risks, but it's knowing when that risk didn't pay off, it's not going to pay off, and we gotta then move and change directions. Because I'm always about making a decision. Never sit and not make a decision. Make a decision, move forward. If you got to change from there, let's be able to redirect quickly.
So it sounds like, as a leader, you're not one to just celebrate the successes, but you'll celebrate a failure if it was something that someone took a risk on to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I want to challenge people and empower them to be able to, to make those types of decisions and understand and say, yes, okay, we got this wrong, but you know what? It led us in a different direction, and we had to divert. But once we diverted, there was another success at the end of that. So we'll be here to celebrate that and appreciate the risks that were taken and what we learned from those risks at the end of the day.
That's awesome. So your approach to embracing bare metal technology seems to be a big disruptor in your industry. How are you handling the transition and educating both your team and the customers about the benefits of this new technology?
Yeah, it's still the bare metal solution, the way it is today, is still an evolving technology that people are really trying to get their heads around. Because bare metal 5 years ago was, I'm just going to put a bunch of servers in the racks and I'm going to give customer access to it, and they can do whatever they want to do on those servers. So basically, I'm just providing hard metal. hardware. So that's why it became bare metal, right? It is just a bare metal solution for the customer to be able to access that technology. But it didn't really provide any additional value to them other than they didn't have to rack and stack it. They didn't have to maintain that hardware if something happened to it. A company like ours would just take care of it. Today, it is a completely different technology. Today, there is more and more automated capabilities being built around bare metal itself as a solution. So now what happens in the industry, and the reason that the hyperscalers have been so successful, public cloud models have been so successful, is because it allows developers that are developing these applications, these sites, to be able to have the access to the technology they need to be able to get in, be hands-on, and not have to have somebody do all the different pieces on the operating systems, the hardware that they normally want, that they don't really want to do. They want to be able to access it, automate it, and not have to interact with someone. So because they've had that success, now what's happening on bare metal technology is these end users, these developers, they know what hardware they need to be able to make their application perform to the ultimate level. So now with bare metal, they can define the gear that they want in there. And then the bare metal providers are putting that automation and that same type of technology that the public cloud providers are on top of it, so that those developers are attracted to going, ooh, this is a more cost-effective model for me, not having to pay for outbound data fees, which it becomes very expensive in the public cloud model. And so, educating customers on the ability and the capabilities of the technology, along with the cost savings that's available on that technology, and obviously, educating the employee base on that, so that they can sell that to a customer. They know how to support the customer correctly, and enable that technology. It's all through a matter of sales development, product development, getting all of that fully understood, because fully baking a product is the key to both internal training as well as sales training, so that the customer understands what we can provide for them.
It sounds like it could be pretty powerful when it all comes together, though.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and the key is that it's providing these end users with a technology that they want, and we can put it in so many locations so that they can get to those end users, because that may be overused term in this industry, but it's very real. The edge, right? How are you getting to the end customers that you need to reach to? Hyperscalers only have so many locations that they can get to. At the end of the day, we can put these pods in so many different data centers and so many different locations. It can be extremely powerful in allowing companies really to be able to get to customers wherever they want to get to them.
Okay, the next question I'm going to ask you, you don't have to answer super specifically. So you mentioned investing millions of dollars in your core products and even looking at acquiring companies to diversify. What criteria would you use to evaluate opportunities, and how would you mitigate the risk of such large investments in what can be a volatile market?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, again, this comes down to, are you willing to take risks? And these can be big risks at the end of the day if you don't evaluate them properly. So really, it is a matter of, what does the return on investment look like based on which option you want to go to? Do I build out one of these core products that we believe is the core synergy across how we provide managed solutions, end-to-end solutions to a customer base, right? And so, do we build it? Do we invest millions of dollars, as we are right now, in our Cloud 2.0 pods that we're building out, because we believe that capability of new cloud technology is going to be crucial to our customer base to consume and be able to utilize based on the type of the application they have. And then we look at acquisitions. When we look at acquisitions, it's about, does it feed to that core vision and that direction of where we're trying to go? Does it check the boxes? Because we have a visual, and it's a very clear visual on, these are the core components in the middle of the business. These are the components that go around that business. So do they check boxes that we need, or does it improve the technology and capability around all of those components so that it aligns with the strategy at the end of the day? And I think the other evaluating criteria beyond that, does it align with our strategy and direction, is, does it geographically meet the needs of either our customers or the geographic presence that we want to create to be able to get to all the end customers?
So as I listen to you answer that question, it makes me wonder, how does it feel to be sitting in a seat right now, answering questions like that at that strategic level from where you started your career? Like, is that like a wow moment for you? Like, did you ever see yourself being able, like, from day one to be able to get to where you are to be answering a question like that at such a high level?
No, I definitely had hopes and aspirations of being able to be, a strategic leader in, whatever industry it was I was going to end up in. But no, when you sit down as a help desk analyst and you're trying to solve problems and all of that, I don't think I ever envisioned sitting in the seat the way that I am today. And it is, yeah, it's a very surreal moment at times having these types of interviews and having these conversations, and really feeling confident about my abilities to sit in this seat. But I don't think the younger me would have envisioned the way that it has all turned out for sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just look back at that younger you and say, see, look what I've accomplished. So I want
Absolutely.
to turn to a little bit about AI because, like, right, it's everywhere. It's a driving force in your industry's evolution. So given that, are you focusing more on in-house development partnerships or into in-house development or partnerships or acquisitions to make the most out of the AI boom?
Absolutely. I mean, I will say right now, we have a little bit of the ability to support that with our in-house capabilities today. So there's a
Mhm.
little bit of focus on how do we develop that and increase that. And then some of the things we're working on in terms of acquisitions will absolutely help be able to take advantage of solutions that will enable AI technology and be able to take advantage of that boom. And we look at partnerships and how that will impact us. But I think right now it's more of developing our in-house technology and looking at some acquisitions that could really have an impact on our ability to support the AI boom going forward.
Do you find it challenging to get the talent that you need to do what you need to do in AI?
Right now, it's it's not. I wouldn't say that's the main challenge. It's getting access to the technology and the capabilities, getting the chipsets, getting those pieces, and getting capacity within data centers that have the ability to meet the needs of the capacity per rack. The power utilization per rack is definitely a challenge. I will say we're positioned a little better than some data center providers out there because we were already looking at how we increase the power per rack. So that's not as much a challenge for us. But still, at the end of the day, when you look at some of the higher consuming 50, 60 kilowatts per rack plus, it's really, really challenging. But in terms of overall talent, it's impressive the market that's out there right now. And I think with some of the larger players having to lay off their staff, we're finding people that have the capabilities and ability to support what we need to do on the AI front right now.
So our entire interview series with Authority Magazine that you participated in was about driving disruption. So if I were just to ask you, like, as an overview, why you think driving disruption in your industry matters, what would you say?
Yeah, I think it's because there's always change. There's always something different going on in the space. And how are you making that impact? How are you going to be one that helps enable that next disruptor that really changes the way the industry goes? I think more and more people think that this data center industry is going to be commoditized. And maybe it is at the end of the day. I don't believe so. I don't think it's not. I don't think it's happening within the next 5 to 10 years in our space. And I think that's because you continue to see things like AI and all of these different capabilities, machine learning, coming in and changing the way that we think about the business. And so, putting a disruptor out there like the bare metal technology, the way it is today, everybody just thought, okay, cloud at the end of the day is going to go to these public cloud providers, and that's really going to be it. But the more you look at the applications and what's necessary in this space, you've got to have different technologies. You've got to have different capabilities. So I don't think there's a way to just purely commoditize that. So putting these disruptive capabilities, technologies out there to give companies more cost effective, more productive, competitive solutions, I think is crucial. So that's why, to me, continuously making changes and adjusting to natural disruptions in our space, such as connectivity and the providers that are handling things on that side, while creating newer technologies that are going to change the way that companies consume cloud and those capabilities, I think is absolutely crucial to the future of our industry.
Awesome. And it's I think a danger of talking to an executive coach. I'm going to swift you down into some people questions.
Absolutely.
So you've talked a lot about putting people first as a core value of your organization, and you're in an industry that's laser focused on technological advancement. How do you approach disruption when it comes to employee and team development?
Well, I will say employee and team development is crucial for me. So part of my background I didn't talk about is I coached high school sports. I coached select sports, and so helping individuals grow and become better as a team is core to who I am. I've always been a competitive athlete, and I love teams. I love what that brings to the table. And so it was only the second week after I started that I had the entire leadership team for Colo House out together to establish our mission, our vision, our values, and who we were going to be as a leadership team, and what type of organization we wanted to be, how we were going to create a culture with our employees. And so in terms of trying to talk about how important that is to create a culture that cares, that is transparent. And I think that's disruptive in this space. There are not a whole lot of companies that are fully transparent with their employee base. And that is something that I work with my leadership team on a consistent basis. We have our all hands call tomorrow with our entire organization. And I think I joked on the last one. I brought on a new chief legal officer, and I said, he's the one that has to deal with the fact that maybe I talk about things more than I should within an organization, because I want my employees to feel like they know what's going on. They know what is happening and that we truly do care. And so that's why it's so important to me it was to build that culture from day one. Even when we put the values together as a leadership team, we put out 5 values. We had the entire employee base vote on those values to say, which ones do you believe we can really embody as an organization? And we took the top 3 vote responses and made those our 3 core values. So it really is about people and culture, and that is different. That is disruptive to the way a lot of companies work in this industry today.
Speaking of core values, what would you say are your personal core values if you were to pick top 3? And that's probably putting you on the spot, because as a coach, we go into a lot of depth on this. But if you know offhand what they are, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I think for me it is, I mean, we put it in as people first, but to me that is truly the number one core value for me, is really caring about people. I think that is one of the things that I didn't anticipate being one of the things that kept me up at night, is just the fact that I am now mainly the responsible party for 75 people that exist within my organization, their livelihoods, their families, all of those pieces. And so that means something to me. I want to create an organization that people enjoy coming to work at on a regular basis. And I know Nicole was on with us for a minute earlier, and she sent me an email last week, and she just said, I wanted you to know I was able to disconnect with my family vacation to enjoy my time at Disney World with my kids and my family. And that means a lot. And it's because of the culture that you built in this organization. So hearing those types of things, going to different locations, having employees embrace me and go, I really appreciate what you're doing here. I mean, that is meaningful. That is, so that people first really is core to me. I would say another one of my core values is around the way that leadership should be, and to me, it's servant leadership. So I believe servant leadership gets a lot of, people talk about it, but not many people truly live it. And so when I work with my leadership team, it's about asking your people what you can do for them. How do you enable them to be successful in their jobs? How do we empower them with the capabilities to really be able to do their jobs well? We try to set some guidelines so that an employee knows, okay, if I'm dealing with a customer issue directly, this is what I can do for the customer within my guidelines so that I can make a decision without having to go back to management every time, right? And so it is really, that is, core to the values for me is servant leadership, and really enabling our employees, enabling and empowering them to be able to do what they need to do, and as leaders, giving them the tools that they need to be successful. And then finally, for me, uh, my value, and it's one that comes based on one of my favorite business books, and that's extreme ownership. And it's owning everything that you do, owning the relationships, not only that of the people that report to you, but owning the relationships upward, and owning the relationships at a peer level, and being able to communicate. And again, it comes back to transparency, but it's owning all of those different relationships at every level, and taking accountability for that. And I feel like if you can mix caring about people, being a servant leader that really wants to empower their people, and owning everything that you do, so that you're accountable for your piece and all of that you're doing, and you merge all of that together, I believe it just really builds a culture of a person that and a great leader. And so that's what I try to keep as my core values that I'm working on with my organization on a daily basis.
So your thoughts on leadership, I love your thoughts on leadership. They're very relevant, but I'm curious where would you say you got your vision of leadership from as you came up? Like, was there anything, like one thing you can think of and say, yeah, that triggered for who I want to be and how I want to be as a leader?
Uh, honestly, I think it came from, I would love to be able to point it to one thing.
Mhm.
But there's just little components that I took from coaches that I worked for early on when I was coaching. The leaders that I've seen over time, Art is one of them, and another gentleman, David Turner, is another one. And it's just taking all of those different components of what I learned from them. Don Barlow was another one. It's just each one of them, it's about taking the key pieces from anybody you interact with and learning from them, and how do you then shape your overall leadership style based on taking each of those pieces. So if I go into any of those pieces, David Turner has a lot to do with people first. Don Barlow, that's where I learned fail fast, fail forward. Art really has a big part on servant leadership, really understanding what that meant. So I would love to point at one thing, but it really is taking those key components from so
Combination.
many. Yeah, it's just pulling it all together, and it's become something that is core to who I am, and I appreciate learning all of that, and I've grown some of it on my own, obviously, but yeah, that's where it's all come from.
So as leaders, and especially in the C-suite, we love to talk about the great things that are happening, and our organizational cultures and all the positives. But the reality is there's probably something that still keeps you up at night, that just, if you had a magic wand, you'd fix tomorrow. So in your leadership role, what keeps you up at night?
Well, I think I mentioned just the fact that I have all the employees' livelihoods and the responsibility of
That's
their families
important.
in my hands. That's one thing. But I think it's trying to keep the strategic direction, the impact of making decisions to go a certain direction, knowing you're in an industry that is constantly changing, and knowing that, again, we can fail fast and fail forward, but there still can be a financial impact to that at the end of the day if you make enough of a wrong decision, and you're not willing to change. And then sometimes you don't want to change too much. So it's ensuring that we are staying open, in our direction to where we can move with change at the end of the day, while not being so open that we're not accomplishing and going towards a direction. So it's finding that balance of strategy and execution to be successful, and to really guide this into continuing to grow this organization. As we're dealing with, still a consistent amount of integration, because, we acquired 7 companies in a matter of 2 years. It's a lot to pull together. So there's just a number of components there that all go, all right, we got a strategy and execution. How do we continue to move that forward, and be successful at that? Because at the end of the day, it's really, that's what's on my mind, and what I'm responsible for the overall organization.
It sounds like you're navigating a lot of things, and you mentioned the acquiring companies, and I'm curious what advice you would give to another senior executive or CEO who is in an acquisition regarding culture. How did you make that work, and what are the top three things you think they should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually reading an article just yesterday about, one of the acquisitions that a company did, and he came in, and the company that they acquired was much bigger than them and much more structured. And so day one, they went ahead and they laid off the 10 core executives because they didn't get the feel that those executives would blend with the culture of what they were trying to build and being nimble as an organization. So it's interesting how there's so many different things when you look at the culture being key to the organization. I think for me it is, understanding that the sooner that you can get the companies to align to one brand, one company name, and get that distributed, get all of that information out there, change the logos, do all of that. There's something about the visual symbolization that really means something for an organization when it comes to culture. And then it's communicating that culture. We based everything we did in the mission, vision, values meeting initially here at Colo House based off of the advantage from Patrick Lencioni. And in that, he talks about communicating clarity and over communicating clarity. So it is about constantly communicating that. That's why we do, a monthly all hands with the entire organization. So it's not just have an announcement at the beginning and then think that's going to be good and then have your leadership distribute the message on a consistent basis. You've got to continuously be communicating that clarity, how things are coming together, what's going on, what's happening. That communication is key. And then I think it's just ensuring that the leadership team that comes together is fully bought in and is fully engaging their organization with that culture and that capability. So I think those are really the three components that I think about and that I think any leader should as they're pulling an acquisition and pulling it into a greater organization.
Excellent. So as we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience about your industry, about disruption, about leadership? Like, this is your platform to, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting time in this industry when we felt like there were a number of macroeconomic headwinds coming at us because of slowdowns around, possible recession or what that looked like. And then all of a sudden the AI boom came and, eliminated all of that and wound up with significant growth at a continuous pace that has just been unprecedented here over the last 6 to 9 months. And so I think when you look at this industry, it will continue to have disruptors that really change and shape the direction of where we go and how we navigate the future. But I think the key is that this is the next key layer of infrastructure for the entire world. And as I've tried to put it before to those that don't really understand what we do, it is that you think about power. And once we had electricity and power and the ability to distribute that across the world, you can't imagine the world without power anymore. It's gotten to everywhere that it can get to. It continues to expand, but it's not going to go away. If it did, we got a bigger problem to worry about at the end of the day. Data centers and the fiber, the interconnectivity that is being provided through this industry is that next layer of infrastructure for the entire world, because we've all now gotten used to the ability to connect to the internet no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. It is there and it's always there. And this is the industry that is enabling that and is making that happen. So it is a key layer of infrastructure that is going to be impactful to the world for generations to come. So keeping up with those disruptors, understanding that impact, but also understanding that we are going to continue to evolve this industry into what it looks like 20 to 30 years from now. And who knows what that is. There will be plenty of disruptors between now and then, but to understand that this is not going away. So we've got to continue to evolve with the needs and the capacity of what continues to come out of this data revolution. This continuous data evolution is going to be critical to us finding success in the future. And my hope is that we continue to find leaders in this space that not only are focused on how to continue to grow their organization, but building cultures within organizations that can be extremely successful as well, so that people want to continue to work in this industry. They want to continue to be a part of it because we've built a culture that people want to come to work on a daily basis. So I think that's what I'd love to share.
Okay, that's awesome. That's actually very, very good. And I genuinely, your interview that you did with the magazine got a lot of traction, a lot of interest. I thank you very much for that. And I thank you for your time today on this interview. And I appreciate that you did this with us. I think that the readers, and this will be embedded with your article, and people will get to hear more depth. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to?
They can go to colohouse.com and reach out through there, or there's also CEO at colohouse.com. There's an email box that I monitor myself. Some people might say I'm crazy for doing that, but I don't. I want it to come directly to me. I really do care about responding to people. People connect with me on LinkedIn and all of that. I try to be as responsive as possible. And if they want to reach out to me through CEO at colohouse.com, it's me. I'm managing that inbox. I will respond. So would look forward to engaging in anyone in conversation that wants to reach out.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you, Cynthia. It was great to talk to you. I appreciate all the questions and being able to be involved in this process.